back to the Bookie in the Beard. My name's Dylan. I am the Bookie, and today we are not able to be joined by the Beard again. Alex has tested positive for COVID, but today I am joined by a man who's inviting me to the bachelor party out in Arizona. We're going to play some golf, have a good time out there. He's also a college football fanatic and has his own podcast, the Hokie Hangover Podcast, and the Basketball Conference, the ACC Football Podcast. Please welcome Mr. Michael McDaniel.
Dylan, I feel like I am going to be the replacement, even though I can't grow one. I think I'm the beard on this podcast tonight. I mean, no Jarbo. He's got the 1.9, so I'm going to have to be that guy.
The COVID 1.9, yep. Yeah, thanks for joining me, though. I know you're a big college football fan, and you're also, like, is it co-host or host? What is it of your podcast?
Yeah, I'm a co-host on both. So my Virginia Tech podcast, Hokie Hangover, I got 2 other co-hosts, and then Basketball Conference, my ACC football podcast, I have 1 other co-host. I've been doing my Tech podcast for a little over a year, and I've been doing my ACC podcast for a little over 5 years. We just finished our 5th season. So,
wow, congrats!
Podcasting for a bit. Thank you. Yeah, the ACC podcast was my first. Yeah, well, my ACC podcast was the first podcast I had ever done. So that was kind of what got me into it, and now I love it. So,
yeah. That's awesome. So I'm assuming you talk a lot about like ACC football. Like I know that we just had the Heisman Trophy Award the other night given out. Just your thoughts on that and Trevor Lawrence officially deciding to go to the NFL.
Yeah, I thought Devontae Smith from Alabama probably should have won it, so I was okay with him winning it. Trevor Lawrence finishing second, I think, was probably the right call. As far as Trevor Lawrence is like an NFL prospect, I mean, he is like as can't miss of a prospect as you can find, right? I mean, he's being compared to Andrew Luck and Peyton Manning when they were coming out of school, and I have a hard time disagreeing. I mean, he can make all the throws. He's really mobile and athletic. He probably doesn't get enough credit for what he can do running the ball too. You see some guys coming out of school like Kyler Murray a couple of years ago, coming out of Oklahoma. And the big story on him was his height, obviously. But outside of that was the fact that he could be a dual threat quarterback, making plays on the ground and through the air. I think Trevor Lawrence is that guy too. And I don't think he gets enough credit for how fast he is. He's like a long stride guy, obviously being like 6'5" or whatever he is. Obviously he's, he sneaks up on you a bit with his speed, but he can make all the throws, and he's going to make the Jacksonville Jaguars very happy. They can't screw this up. I mean, it's too easy. Don't pick anybody else. Don't pick Justin Fields or Zach Wilson from BYU. Don't mess this up. It's Trevor Lawrence. That's the pick. Don't overthink it.
Yeah, Shad Khan. I don't know if you know about this. He's, I think, the owner down there in Jacksonville, and someone brought up that Urban Meyer was rumored to go there, and he said, "News to me." He had no.
Yeah.
It's just a funny situation going on out there. Interested to see who does decide to get that job, and if it is Urban, you might look at it and say, "I wonder if he's going to take Fields," being that they got the Ohio State connection there. So should be an interesting one. But like you said, I just don't understand how you can't pick Lawrence. I mean, he's had 2 losses in his entire college football career, through 3 years. He's just can't miss quarterback there for the number 1 pick. So just kind of want to talk about a little bit more about these coaches and situations going on throughout the league. So Anthony Lynn has been fired from the Chargers. He is out. We've had some people interviewing there for the job. Not exactly sure who the exact names are on that, but it should be an interesting one to say the least. I know Brian Dable from the Bills is a big name out there to be potentially going out to the Chargers, the offensive coordinator for the Bills. And I just don't know how, if you're Brian Dable, you can leave if you're that successful there. And why would you want to? I mean, I get it's probably an increase in money and builds your resume, but if you're the offensive coordinator for the hottest quarterback in the league, why would you not ride it out, you know?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Anthony Lynn, I guess it's been about 24 hours since he was let go. That was a little bit of a surprise for me. Like, I wasn't
Mm.
expecting for him to get fired. So I'm not sure who the names are tied to that either, but I would assume that Dable's one of them. Eric Bieniemy from Kansas City, the offensive coordinator, he's interviewing everywhere right now. I'll be really interested to see who they land out there. I know another hot name is Joe Brady, offensive coordinator from the Panthers. He was at LSU with Joe Burrow 2 years ago when they won the national championship.
Josh
Carolina's offense this
McDaniels,
year.
I mean, even Josh
Josh
McDaniels.
McDaniels.
Yeah, he he
Yeah.
he kind of fell off the radar this year. I mean, he was in talks ever since he decided to get on the plane, head to Indianapolis, and Bill calls him up, "Nah, head on back." And he's like, "All right, I'm heading back." And haven't heard of him since. It's kind of crazy thing going on out there.
Yeah. So as a Colts fan, let me ask you about that because I'm a Patriots fan. So I'm curious as a Colts
Well,
fan,
I'm a
like how
Packers fan,
mad were
but
you? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. How mad were you about that happening?
at the time I wasn't into football like I am to the extent that I am now, but
Yeah.
I just kind of thought he was, I don't know, kind of he was a Patriots guy, so didn't really know how to feel about him. And whenever he did make that decision, it's like, okay, yeah, that's Patriots screwing us over once again, whether it be from Tom or whether it be from him deciding not to coach for us. But at the end of the day, I think Colts got the best deal in Frank Reich, and they're having a lot of success now, except for that Week 16 performance where he got a little pass happy with Phil Rivers there instead of just running the rock with one of the best
Yeah.
running backs in the league and Jonathan Taylor. But at the time that I was a Colts fan, so that kind of made me drift away from them and become the Packers fan that I am now.
Fair
How'd
enough.
it go?
Well, there you go. I mean, that's a good reason to become a Packers fan, I guess. The Chargers job. I guess the one piece of intrigue with that is having Justin Herbert. So I think a lot of this will depend on what these new coaches that are interviewing for this job think of Justin Herbert and how good he can be. Because I guess that's an obvious selling point outside of being in a nice warm place out there in California, like being able to coach a guy like him. I mean, that's the question for me, right? Like, how
Yeah,
confident are you that Justin Herbert could be really good going forward? I mean, he was obviously impressive as a rookie, but that's, I think, the selling point. If you're the Chargers and you're looking for a new head coach, like, well, we got this rookie who just had a really good year. You're going to have an opportunity to coach him. And I think that if they go with an offensively minded coach like at Brian Dable or like at Joe Brady or Josh McDaniels, Eric Bieniemy, what have you, like, I think that will be a big time selling point for them.
yeah, and that's kind of the way we've seen the league kind of shift here in the past few years. Cliff Kingsbury, whose house I'm sitting in right now, we're having a good time. He's in the kitchen right now cooking us up the meal after the tough loss we had. Now we're not in the playoffs, but yeah, and the Rams coach Sean McVay as well. We've seen that shift towards offensive coaches from now, like in the past few years. So it should be interesting if they continue that trend there. If they do decide to go with a defensive option like Matt Eberflus of the Colts. I mean, he's having a heck of a year.
Yep.
Dable and Eberflus are having their matchup this week too. Colts at Bills, so it should be a good one to see who's at the top of the list, in my opinion, for head coaching job. So it'll be a really good one there. Another head coach I wanted to talk about too is probably the worst head coach in the league right now, and Doug Peterson for the Eagles. That
Worse
was
than Adam Gase?
yeah, I think so at this point. Adam
Wow.
Gase doesn't have a job. We all assume that he's out. We're looking at someone else for the Jets now. Not
Yeah.
haven't heard anyone as of yet for big names, but we'll definitely talk
Fine.
about that when it comes
So
around.
the worst sitting head coach, the
Worst
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 sitting head
active
coach then is
worst
Doug.
active head coach
Okay,
is
fair.
Kevin Feige.
I'll accept it. I'll accept it.
That's just a straight up tank job if I've ever seen one. And Chris Collinsworth got a little heat for it after he said it. We were all thinking it. I had some money on that game, so I was pretty upset about that. I had it on the Eagles, so yeah, it's just crazy situation going out there. Uh, we saw Kelsey have a little bit of a confrontation there with him. It reminded me of the J.J. Watt situation with Bill O'Brien out in Houston. Kind of reminds me of that. And I'm curious to see in the next few days, few weeks, if we're going to see that situation of the revolt with the Eagles players against Doug Peterson to get him out of there. So it should be an interesting one out there. Joe Judge even came out and said that he, as the New York Giants coach, would never disrespect the game like the Eagles did. So that kind of was a little bit of a promotion out there for him as a head coach and the Giants and what kind of football team they're going to be. So interesting for him to take advantage of that situation. And another firing that we had, I guess you could say, would be Elway out there in Denver. He fired
Yeah.
and got promoted to president. So yeah, it's pretty funny situation. He steps down, gets fired, whatever you want to say, from the GM job, and then he takes that president title. So it will be really fun, interesting situation to see if he's going to hire someone that's going to make the organization better, or if he's going to hire another bum that's going to make him look like and make him stay the best quarterback in Broncos history.
I think he probably figured out that he wasn't so good at the whole general manager thing, which is really weird because he obviously has great football pedigree, Super Bowl winning quarterback, a guy who was really good college football player as well. It's really interesting that he has never really been able to figure that out. But I guess being a great player doesn't always translate to a front office role. It's definitely a different spin on things, especially in football. And not always a slam dunk that if you're a good player, you're going to end up being a good GM.
Yeah, exactly. So it should be a good one out there to see. And like we are talking about, Bieniemy, McDaniels, Eberflus, all rumored for jobs. So it should be interesting to see where that goes. Being that I am a former Colts fan, it'll be interesting to watch Eberflus and where he goes because, like we were talking about, the offensive-minded head coach hirings that we're having going on with the new trend in the league. So should be a good one out there.
Yep.
Yeah, so next thing I kind of want to get into here is bums of the week. Mention a few of them in the head coaches. Let's just go from number 5 all the way up to number 1. Cardinals fans thinking they had a chance against the Rams without Jared Goofball Goff. I mean, are they a better team without Goff? We'll find out.
Is the backup better than the starter?
Yeah,
that's the question.
Yeah, we'll find out. Should be a good one. Cardinals fans thinking they had a chance, though, to make the playoffs. Not really that big of a deal, but just kind of wanted to mention that one there. Bears fans thinking they had a chance to beat my Packers.
Nope.
Just dumb. Like, why would you
nope.
even get it was you had to have Arizona lose to make the playoffs, and that's what happened. So
yep.
Coming in at number 3, we have the New York Giants fans going on Twitter and lighting it up with comments of how dumb Doug Peterson is and how much they hate the Eagles, and that should be a new rivalry coming out in the NFC East at the at Alex Gonzalez there with the Washington football team taking the NFC East this year with a record of 7-9.
I got an idea for Giants fans who are mad that the Eagles lost that game against the Washington football team. Maybe don't go 6-10 next year if you're the Giants, and then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, coming in at number 2, Joe Judge. Little promotion there for him, going out and saying that his team would never do that. I mean, number 2, bum of the week. And as I'm sure you guys could guess, keeping it in the NFC East with the worst active head coach in the NFL, Doug Peterson. He's an I don't understand how the Eagles franchise can go from winning a Super Bowl against your Patriots. What was it, 5 or 6 years ago at this point, and even sooner, and now they're just falling off. And what was their record this year? 4-10-1 was
4-10-1. Yep. Yeah.
Or 4-11-1.
4-11-1, I guess, with the loss. Yeah, 4-11-1. Big math guy. Yeah.
Yeah, bum of the week. Number 1, me, I guess, for not knowing how to do math, but
same.
Yeah.
I do it for a living, buddy. You're in college. I'm in 5 years of my professional career, and I can't do math, and I'm do accounting and finance for a living. So.
Yeah, it's a crazy situation out there in NFC East. Just an absolute garbage fire. You just never know who's going to come out. It's a cyclical league. It's a cyclical division, you should say, and you never know who's coming out. I think the past, I don't know the stat, but it's been like the past 10 years, I want to say, and there's been a different winner every year for the most part, with the exception of maybe one time. It's so cyclical in that league, and everybody's won it within the past 10 years at some point. So it's just a crazy situation. So
Yeah, well, winning the NFC East this year is an invitation to get it beat down by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the wild card round. So
yeah, we'll talk about that one. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Colts Bills wild card weekend, super wild card weekend. Some are saying first game Colts at Bills, 1 o'clock. We have the Colts going into Orchard Park, trying to take down the on fire Bills and Josh Allen. I'm I just don't understand how the Colts are going to be able to pull this game off. I mean, Phil Rivers is 1-1 right before a bye week. Whenever he starts getting tired and a little lethargic, and the one win he had was against the Bengals, and it was a heck of a comeback win.
yep.
And right before we had the end of the season, we saw him also go 1-1 and almost lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are 1-15 now and 1-14 at the time. So look for Phil to absolutely flop this week, and the Colts defense to get a pick or something like that to hold Josh Allen back from hitting the 30 mark this week. But with that said, give me the Bills this week, 28-20 in a good one. We have the money line here at plus 260 for Indy, minus 330 for Buffalo, with a spread at 7. I think Buffalo's going to cover, and the over and under at 51.5. Give me the under, but I would stay away from betting on this game unless you're just betting on the Bills to win. Colts defense is opportunistic and takes advantage of a lot of things, and that could be problematic for Brian Dable and that offense out there. So give me the Bills 28-20 this week.
I like the Bills too. I think it'll be a little bit more higher scoring. But now I think about it, I look at that total, total's 51, and I'm thinking in my head, like, I don't know, 35-17 Bills, but that puts it at 52.
Yeah,
So it's not like I think it's going to go way over the total. I think that total's about right. If you're betting this game, I definitely wouldn't touch it from a total standpoint. I think that could go any number of directions. I think it could be really high scoring. I think it could be lower scoring if the Bills try to play a little bit more ball control. I just don't trust Philip Rivers and the Colts enough right now, right? Like
exactly.
I feel like the Colts this year, when I think they've gotten it going, they've also stepped in it with some of their play calling. I worry about that against a team that's 13-3 and I think a real contender in the AFC this year. I worry about that. This is probably one of the most dangerous teams in the playoffs, the Bills. I think they're really, really good. They, defensively, they're strong. Josh Allen's been outstanding. They got playmakers everywhere. I mean, this is a really, really good Buffalo Bills team. I just don't see the Colts being consistent enough on either side of the football to make this game all that competitive. So I think I am going to go with 35-17 Bills. I think it's going to be a little bit less competitive than some people think. And yeah, I'd take the Bills to cover with some confidence. Now, I wouldn't touch that total though at 51. That could be over. That could be under. I don't know. But Bills minus 6.5. I think it's a bet I would definitely make.
Yeah, I just can't do it whenever the Colts have their defense that they do, where they are very opportunistic. So
Right.
they can get a couple picks against Josh Allen. It's going to be hard to do. Don't get me wrong, but it's not going to be the most difficult thing in the world. Is kind of what I'm trying to preach here. But yeah, at the end of the day, Bills to win, Bills to cover. So yeah, next game here we have coming up on the Super Wild Card Weekend slate, the Rams and Seahawks. This one, I'm just going to tell you right now, it's going to be a low scoring game.
Yep.
Both defenses are really solid. They've always been barn burners when it comes down to it, where it's just defense hitting each other punch for punch, and it's going to be a good one. With that said, though, give me the Seahawks 17-13, edging out a victory over the Jared Goofball Goffless Rams this week. We have Jalen Ramsey, who's going to be locking up Metcalf, so look for him to not have the greatest game. Russell Wilson, who's taken a lot of sacks because of that O-line this year, especially against Aaron Donald this week, that he'll be going up against. And Jared Goofball Goff, whether he plays, whether he doesn't, I don't trust them to play against the Seattle defense, who's been looking pretty solid these past 5-6 weeks. So, yeah, with that said, Seahawks 17-13.
It's funny. You actually stole my score prediction, and I'm with you. 17-13 Seahawks. I'm just going to roll with it, Dylan. We're rolling into this together. We're just going to go with the Seahawks to cover 3.5. 17-13. They're covered by half a point, is what we're
Yeah,
saying. Fair enough.
exactly.
Yeah, I'm with you. The Rams look like they're going to be suiting up John Wolford, a quarterback, former Wake Forest football great John Wolford. I loved him in college. He was working in finance up until he
He's
got his opportunity with the Rams. It's pretty funny how it's gone full circle. There's a joke on the internet actually. He had his LinkedIn profile still up, like with him being a financial analyst at wherever he was working, maybe Morgan Stanley or wherever it was. So anyway, that's pretty funny now that he's going to be the starting quarterback in all likelihood in a playoff game in the NFL. But I'm gonna go with the Seahawks too. I don't love what they're doing on offense though, and that really scares me with them moving forward. Their defense has actually been much better the second half of the year. Earlier in the season, it was liability, but they've started to play better defensively. But the offense has fallen off, and it's been weird because Russell Wilson, you'll remember, Dylan, was an MVP candidate for the first like 8 or 9 games of the year. He was lighting the league on
yeah,
fire, and now the offense isn't doing anything. The defense is actually back to doing basically what it's done under Pete Carroll for a number of years now. They've been really reliable on defense, and the offense has been kind of hit or miss, right? And that's kind of what we've seen with the Seahawks the second half of the year. It's very weird that with all the weapons they have offensively, and Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf and Chris Carson in the running game, they can't get more going, running the football or even throwing the football consistently with as good as Russell Wilson is. It's always kind of weirded me out with them on offense, but I think they got enough in this game to get by the Rams. I'm not going to pick a backup quarterback to beat the Seahawks with as well as this defense has played lately.
exactly. And with the over and under 42, I'm going to hammer that under with these defense.
Hammer the under. Yeah, hammer the under. 42.5. I know it's a low total, but I don't see this getting very high scoring. The Seahawks offense hasn't played well enough. They're playing a good Rams defense, and the Rams have a quarterback that was, in finance like literally a month ago. He wasn't even on the roster contributing. So I have a hard time seeing the Rams score a lot of points in this game either.
Yeah, speaking of a team that's going to have a tough time scoring a lot of points, will be Tom Brady in that offense against that front seven of the Washington football team. Yeah, so
I
90%
mean,
right now is on the Bucks, which worries me. I don't know. I think Washington is going to take this one surprisingly, 17-14, but that is so up for grabs. The only reason I'm doing that is because the majority is on the Bucks, and I don't like that at all, especially when
yeah,
it comes to gambling. So yeah, I just don't believe. I just don't believe that the Bucks are going to be able to play up to what people are hyping them up to be, basically. So with the spread at 7.5, don't think the Bucks are going to cover that. 46.5 is over and under. I'd hammer that under. This is going to be Tom struggling. I was talking with Ryan last night when we were playing games on the Xbox, and he was saying that Tom Brady does struggle against people that are able to pass rush him, and that
yeah.
worries me. So, and you're going to have Alex Smith instead of Dwayne Haskins this game, so you're going to have some movement with the ball on the offensive side. So it's not going to be an absolute blowout by any means, but I think it'll be a close one. But yeah, with that said, give me Washington 17-14.
Dylan, I'm gonna be honest, man. I don't hate that pick. I'm not gonna have the courage.
Plus 280 for Washington too this week.
It's worth a fly. It's worth a flyer. Seriously, it is. I probably don't. Truthfully, I don't have the courage to pick Washington straight up. But plus 280 is decent value, I think, because of what you mentioned with the really good pass rush they have. Chase Young has been every bit as good as everybody expected him to be. Really good rushing the passer. Montez Sweat's been really good. Like they have a very good pass rush. They've kind of rotated Ryan Kerrigan in and out. Defensively, yeah, exactly. I mean, defensively, Washington's pretty good, right? Like they are. And Tom Brady, as most quarterbacks do, traditionally struggles against teams that can really provide a strong pass rush. And the thing that has affected Tom Brady a bit more than a guy like Aaron Rodgers, for example, is Rodgers has the mobility to get outside the pocket, right? Brady does not. He's excellent, and he's still very, very good, and he's having a better year last year than he had even a year ago with the Patriots. And he's it's not necessarily going to be a game that Tom Brady and the Bucks are just going to walk out there with all their offensive weapons, be able to roll their helmets out there and just win the game. This is a really good Washington defense, and I like Alex Smith a lot. And I like what they've been able to do with Antonio Gibson. He looked healthy last week, which is important. Ran the ball at least hard against the Eagles. I think this is a game where Washington, I think, if they want to have a significant opportunity to win this football game, they're going to have to play ball control, keep Tom Brady off the field, and get after the passer. I think ultimately Tampa Bay wins this game. I think they win close. I think Washington covers. I think it stays inside of 8. I think it truthfully stays inside a touchdown. I think the Buccaneers have more trouble than a lot of people are expecting them to. And to be honest with you, like I love the way Brady and that offense has played. The defense has been good too, but when seeing Tampa Bay go up against some of the teams they played this year, like the Saints, for example, like going up against a defense like that, they've really struggled. And I worry about Tampa Bay if they get past this round of the playoffs and kind of what they look like moving forward, because it's not necessarily going to be an easy ride, even though their offense is scoring 1,000,000 points a game right now. I don't think it's going to be an easy path by any means for them to get to a Super Bowl, like I think most Bucks fans would want. So give me Washington to cover. I think Tampa Bay wins and advances, but it'll be close. Total's 45. I'd
46.5
lean.
last I checked.
Yeah, so
Roughly around that.
yeah, even so, I guess I would lean over, but I don't feel real confident in it, to be honest with you. I don't know. I think it goes over, obviously, if Brady's able to play really well and kind of run away with the game. But if you're betting on Washington to keep it close, I think you bet the under here.
Yeah, basically, what I'm taking away from this game is stay away from betting on it for me, unless you're throwing something on Washington at that plus 280 value. That's the
I'm
only
with
thing
you.
I can see being feasible this week.
Yep,
Um,
100% with you there.
yeah, one that I'm definitely going to be hammering over on this week, though, is the Baltimore Titans game.
Yeah.
Zero defense is going to be played this week. Derrick Henry, 714 yards and rushing in the last 4 games for King Henry. And I thought it was pretty funny. I don't know if you saw this, but the RG3 tweet about them getting their bike back this week against the Titans. The Titans have traditionally, well, not traditionally, but in the past few years and matchups they've had, uh, beaten Baltimore and beaten them pretty confidently, I could say, by watching the game. With that said, give me the Titans this week, 34-28. King Henry to have not a 200 rushing yard game, but very close to that. If you're looking at betting on that, that's a good bet to possibly throw down, considering he has been a workhorse this past few weeks. So I would like that. But yeah, give me Titans 34-28 with the over and under at 54.5, hammering the over this week.
What's the value on the Titans money line? Do you have that in front of you? Do you know
Yeah,
what?
plus 155, which I would definitely look at. Minus
Yeah.
185 for Baltimore. It's definitely an interesting one because I don't know why that Baltimore is so heavily favored, and especially all the media that I've heard, like it is with Pittsburgh and Cleveland. I just don't understand how you can pick the Baltimore Ravens. I know they've been hot, but they've been playing bad teams. And sure, they've been going crazy on the offensive side of the ball, but so has Derrick Henry and the Titans. I mean, it was 18 seconds left in that Houston game. I turned it off. I went to go get food, and sure enough,
Yeah.
Tannehill throws a bomb down the field. I mean, I'm just like, this offense can do anything they want. It reminds me of the Packers almost. It's just unreal.
Yeah, the Titans obviously were really good last year, made it to the AFC Championship game. Ultimately didn't make it to the Super Bowl, but they were really good a year ago. And this team is also really good, right? I know the Titans kind of surprised some people last year because of the way they came on at the end of the year, but 11-5 this year, they've still been really good offensively. And, the defense has been kind of a work in progress, but offensively anyway, when you have Derrick Henry and you can run the ball like they do, it makes up for not having that great of a defense. You can play that ball control game that, some teams who can't run the ball quite as well can't necessarily play. So I'm with you here, and I think plus 155 on the money line is actually decent value for the Titans here if you just want to bet on them outright. I'm pretty confident they win this game. I'm with you. I think this is going to be a higher scoring game. I want to say like, I don't know, 35-28 or something like that. Like higher, I mean, a lot of offense. And
1 point off of me
look,
there, 34-28. So
yeah,
we're
I
definitely
don't
on
know.
the
I
same
like
page.
yeah. I mean, we had the same score a couple minutes ago too with the what game was that?
Rams,
Seahawks
Seahawks.
Rams. Yeah. But yeah, I'm with you here. I like the Titans. I think there's more ways for them to move the ball offensively and score points, right? I mean, the Ravens, the offense has come on quite a bit the last like month or so. I think they played a lot better on that side of the ball. They were just up and down all year. And this is a matchup with consistency. I mean, I talked about it earlier, with the Bills and how consistent they've been and how inconsistent the Colts have been. I think you're up against that again here with the Ravens and the Titans. The Titans have been the more consistent offense all year long. The Ravens have just kind of been this roller coaster ride. And I don't trust Lamar Jackson to make enough plays through the air to win this football game. That's what it boils down to. And I trust Tannehill and what he's able to do with Derrick Henry behind him. So give me a
Mhm.
Titans here.
Yeah, I agree with you there. A game that I'm sure we can agree on as well would be the New Orleans Chicago game. I
Yeah.
got literally every parlay, every bet has New Orleans winning. It's not a great value at minus 520, but I got it at minus 485, so it's a little bit of a better value. But Chicago at plus 385, I would not take that. I don't care if you're the biggest Bears fan in the world and you think your team can do it, and Mitch
What's up,
Trubisky is
Colin?
the guy, but
Colin Fitzpatrick, baby.
geez, it's this is the lock of the week basically for me. I got New Orleans 28-14. I think that New Orleans doesn't get as many points as most would think because of the Bears defense being as good as it has been throughout the many years they've been a franchise. So that's why I like them, and I like Mitchell Trubisky to come out, put up some points against a good defense, but not enough to get the job done. With an over and under at 47, I'm going to take the over, but I'd be skeptical to bet on that one. And with the spread at 10, I'd also be skeptical to bet on that, considering Drew Brees does have a little bit of an arm issue. People are talking about him being out of the league, even, which is crazy to me, considering this wasn't even a talk at the beginning of the year. And
Yeah.
now it's so big. But yeah, I would steer away from betting on anything except New Orleans getting the job done against the Chicago Bears at home in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome.
So usually I like to take the underdog on double-digit spreads, depending on the matchup. Right. This is one where I definitely will not be taking the Bears. This is 27-10 Saints. I think they win. I think they cover. I actually do like the under in this football game. I don't think the Bears score enough points here, and I think the Saints, even if they do get out to a bit of a lead and they are able to cover the spread rather easily, I'm not sure it's a slam dunk that they get to that 47 number. I think it's going to be hard to score for the Bears to score that many points against New Orleans defense the way they've played this year. I like the Saints. I don't think the Bears score enough. And while the Bears defense has been okay, New Orleans, I think they find enough ways to move the football in this game. I know the status of Kamara is up in the air a bit, but I still think they cover 10. They're a much better, more well-rounded offense, and I think they get the job done here.
Yeah, shout out to Alvin Kamara too for getting the NFL record 6 touchdowns on Christmas Day. So shout out to you there. And wrapping it up here with the last game of Super Wildcard Weekend, we have the Cleveland Browns going up against Pittsburgh Steelers at Heinz Field. I mean, you got the head coach out. I know that Kevin Stefanski for the Browns. I think the offensive coordinator, assistant offensive coordinators, just a bunch of coaches out this week. Lineman out. Um, Forget who the lineman was, but I heard that there was a story where Stefanski handed game ball to that lineman, but potentially how they got COVID there. Uh, you never know where that ball came from, too, if it's going to be traced back to the game where some Steeler players are going to be out, too. We haven't found that out at all. We saw Stefanski before and after the game chatting with Mike Tomlin on the field, so that should be interesting to see how that goes. Randy Fichtner, the worst offensive coordinator in the league right now, in my opinion. I just don't think they're going to be able to get it done offensively. They've struggled for the past, I want to say 5, 6 weeks, even if in their victories they've been close victories. They beat the Cowboys, I think, barely, and they lost to the football team. The Colts handed them a victory in Week 16, and they almost beat the Browns in Week 17. But a lot of people are putting emphasis on that for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, don't get me wrong, they had Big Ben out, but I think Mason Rudolph is just as capable as Big Ben because Big Ben, I think, has lost it. So, yeah, with that said, give me the Browns this week, 27-13 on the road. Should be a windy one. The over and under at 47.5. I'm going to take the under, and we have plus 220 on the money line for Cleveland. So I would definitely be betting that for sure. Minus 270 on Pittsburgh. I hate that bet completely. We have the spread at 6.5 last I checked. I think Cleveland gets the job done here on the road against a terrible Pittsburgh offense that's getting a lot more credit than they deserve, in my opinion.
This is a tough one. I'm on the opposite side of that. I think it's hard to win against the same team 2 weeks in a row. In the Browns case, and not having Kevin Stefanski, I think that matters, and not having some of your assistants, that matters. But this is, I say that, but I still think that this is a coin flip game, right? The Steelers' offense, even with Big Ben, I know he didn't play last week, but even with Big Ben, it's just like you don't know what you're getting week to week. So it's really hard to pick the Steelers with a ton of confidence because offensively, I don't trust them right now. But I do think it's difficult to go on the road into playoffs, number one. I know it's a little bit different in 2020 with COVID and stuff like that, but it's hard to go on the road in the playoffs. That, the fact that the Browns are out some assistants, the fact that it's hard to beat the same team 2 weeks in a row, and also add in the fact that, I'll give Big Ben a little bit of credit because I know you mentioned that Mason Rudolph and Big Ben are on the same level. I don't necessarily think that. I certainly agree with you that Big Ben's taken a step back for sure. I'm not going to disagree with you there. But I think he brings a little bit more to the offense as far as like what he's seen and how he commands the offense versus Mason Rudolph, who just hasn't been in the league quite as long, right? I know he's been in Pittsburgh a while, but he hasn't been in the league quite as long. So I think that matters. And having the playoff experience with Big Ben, I think definitely matters. I'm going to take the Steelers. I think the Browns cover. I think it is lower scoring. I love the under in this game. Because I don't think the Steelers are really all that capable of scoring a lot of points right now. But I'm not too confident. And I'll say like 21-17 Steelers. I think it's a similar score. I think last week it was 22-20, something like that. It was low scoring last week.
22, I think.
24-22. Okay, yeah. So I knew it was a 2-point spread last week. So I think it's something similar to that. I think it's going to be like 21-17 Steelers at home. I'll ride with Big Ben. I love the Browns. I'll be rooting for them. The only bet I'll personally be placing on this game is on the under because I think this game definitely goes under. I'm not confident in the spread pick at all. I think the Browns can certainly pull it out, but chips are stacked against them, I think, a little bit. Just not having your head coach in the first playoff game of the year, I think that's going to be tough. But I'd love to see the Browns win just because of what they've been through the last 20 years.
Yeah, COVID-19 is running rampant through the Browns organization right now, but look for that to be contact traced to the Steelers as well. Like I mentioned, Stefanski and Tomlin were out there talking right before and after the game. So potentially a little bit of a spread there. Maybe Tomlin got a little bit close there to Big Ben after the game, talking to him about what he saw and stuff like that. So definitely should be an interesting one to see how that shapes up. I would be hesitant to bet on this game for that reason, but like Mike said, definitely take the under this week for sure. But I would go Cleveland if I had to make a pick. So yeah, it should be super fun wild card weekend. I wanted to take the time here to thank Mike for joining me today. I know Alex wasn't able to be here. T's and P's to you, Alex. Get better, get well soon, and yeah, that pretty much wraps it up.